in this particular group will carry forward to Group 2, which begins here on Saturday morning.
And that's going to be really cutthroat when you consider there are going to be 10 players in it, and 4 of them will be going out by Sunday night. That's nearly half of the Phase 2 players. So really so important to get as many wins as you can on the board, because everyone wants to be here for that final day. The first big Matchroom title of the season on the line. First prize of $20,000. Who wouldn't want to be part of that? Shane van Boening starts us off then.
Always with an effective break, and that is no exception. If he can't figure out how to break off in optimum fashion, no one can.
Well, he was having no luck on the break in his last match against Oliver Szolnocki. Apart from the opening rack, of course, when he had a golden break. But after that, he was breaking well every time, potting multiple balls, but just getting no good fortune in terms of where they were finishing up. Did manage to get over the line. Szolnocki really should have won that one. He needlessly ran out of position when he had a chance to close it out 5-3. Paid a heavy price for it. Carl Boyes likes to talk about the pool gods. They wreaked quite a revenge on the young man from Hungary. Combination here, maybe?
Tempted, possibly. No. I think the angle and indeed the distance between the 2 and the 9 precluded a legitimate attempt there, especially knowing that he could play the shot he has.
Just underway also over on table 2. Naoki Oi and Skylar Woodward both on 4 wins, although Oi has played 3 matches more than Woodward.
That's quite a roll also.
There's that match I was talking about. So my estimate now, Phil, is that 6 is going to be the target, but it's very possible that not everyone on 6 will get through. You might see 1 player get through with 6. But really, to be sure, I think now these players might need to be thinking of 7. Where are you putting it?
Yeah, I think 6, as we see Oi knocking an absolutely terrific 3. I think 6 should be okay if you've won a whole lot of racks and your frames difference is positive. Van Boening was around the table there. He knew there's a little too much pace in the cue ball to be entirely confident. It's not entirely behind the 5. Is the 2 on?
Extension called.
Extensions are called when you're either in a very complex snooker and you need thinking time, or you need to gather your thoughts for a vital shot. This is the latter. Easily room around the 5 for the 2. The next question, does the 3 squeeze past the green 6?
Yeah, it's tight, but I think there's just about enough space. And the worrying thing here for Shane van Boening, I've said it time and time again, Alcaide doesn't make many unexpected mistakes these days. Tends to do the simple things very well. We've seen some surprise misses and lapses from players throughout the field since we got here on Monday, but very few from Alcaide.
Taking the cue ball up the spine of the table. Not ideal on the 5. I think from his reaction, he thought he might be a little shorter than he was. The cue ball does tend to keep running and running.
Skylar Woodward has won the opening rack on the other table against Naoki Oi, who was in good shape with 3 wins out of 4 on Monday. But since then, has played 8 matches and lost 7 of them, including all of his last 4.
He's taken these competently, but one has to say he was fortunate. Shane van Boening played a really good hook on the 2, and Alcaide had to rely on luck to make contact and leave it safe.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Alcaide has capitalised to the full.
Diverted. We weren't allowed to land in Gibraltar because the winds were so ferocious, and so we landed in Malaga. It was a very scary flight, let me tell you. I think the worst one I've ever been on. Nothing to do with the airline, it was just the weather conditions.
Yeah, well, landing in Malaga, you've got to have a look at David Alcaide's hometown. He's leading 1-0.
Yes, I really do love the Gibraltar trip. Everybody's so friendly over there. And I'm sure that Alcaide is looking to maybe complete that Whirlpool Masters hat-trick. Wouldn't that be something? When you consider, though, that the great Ralph Souquet has won that event 6 times. What an achievement that is.
Yeah, it's got such a history, that event. It started out as the European Masters, actually, almost 30 years ago now. How it's grown and grown. It's great there are so many open tournaments now, and 2 new ones coming along, the UK Open and European Open this year, but it's all got to lead somewhere, and that's where it leads. That's the incentive. You do well in the open events, establish yourself as one of the big names, and you get invited to places like Gibraltar.
2-0 Woodward over Naoki Oi. He won the second rack, did the American, thanks to one outrageous fluke. Trying for cover behind the 4 and the 9. But I think the cue ball ran on slightly too much. Whether Van Boening can get through to the potting angle, that's debatable.
10 seconds.
Extension, please.
He can certainly catch an edge of the two, though. Tried to jump, wobbled it, left it.
How straight has this finished? Yeah, so I had to force it a bit. And with the forward momentum that he generated on the cue ball, he's scratched.
Yes, positionally, that was a losing cause, but I'm very surprised he went in off. Very, very surprised. Look at the table now, and Van Boning's mercy. You can see the number counting down there next to the player who's at the table's name. Just to repeat, if you're just joining us for the first time, it's a 30-second shot clock in operation, and in each rack a player can have one 30-second extension.
Van Boening looking just a little irked with how straight he's finished on this 7. But he's recovered the situation ideally.
Would have liked slightly more angle on the 8 ball to get the cue ball out into mid-table. Cheated the pocket to do that, and now the 9 should go in. There's just that scintilla of doubt.
Shane Van Boening completes the job and levels with David Alcaide at 1 apiece. Van Boening will have the break in rack 3. They're already into rack 3 on the other table. Skylar Woodward, as we told you, 2-0 up on Naoki Oi. And Woodward is going to have ball in hand here. This could be 3-0 coming up.
And the one big thing in Skylar Woodward's favour, he's played fewer matches than anyone else. He's got games in hand on every single player in this table. And if he can win this match and go to 5 wins out of 5, he would move into the top 8. Takes on Francisco Sanchez Ruiz on table 1 later. And then it's a busy final day in this round-robin group for him tomorrow.
Skylar Woodward, 28 years of age. The only American ever to be MVP at the Mosconi Cup 2 years in a row. during their back-to-back wins in 2018 and 19. Shane Van Boening was part of those teams as well, and he's breaking off here at 1-all.
When his break is working, he's a colossus. So the one ball is available, although being so close to the cue ball, this is a little tricky. Well, actually, it's just plain old tricky. Oh, man. I don't think he was being self-critical there. You know, Kelly Fisher was saying earlier on that she played a bank and he came off really, really straight. Now, Shane Van Boening is a brilliant banker and he missed that in pool terms by quite some way. Again, because he came off straight.
Yeah, you're right. It was more a tone of complaint or a plea to the pool gods rather than self-criticism. Skylar Woodward has now made it 3-0 against Naoyuki Oi. He's going to be so disappointed with the way his tournament is going. Got off to a really good start. It's all gone wrong for him since.
Well, he tried the thin cut to the centre pocket, and look at the wages of sin. For the second time in the match, a golden roll. He did catch the one first, no ifs, buts or maybes. He caught it thin, but he did make contact.
But has the 7 prevented the 1 from being on to the corner? Okay, he's having a close look.
10 seconds.
Yeah, went comfortably in the end. Nicely done. And we were talking earlier about the Mosconi Cup, and David Alcaide returned to the team and was a key part of Europe's win in London just before Christmas. And these two actually faced each other in a key match along the way. It was on day 3. USA had unexpectedly gone into the day leading overall, but Europe were turning the tide and starting to build a significant lead on the Thursday evening. Alcaide teamed up with Alban Ocean to face Van Boening, and Tyler Steyer beat them comfortably 5-1.
Yeah, I well recall that match. It was a really important one for Captain Lately and his troops. The obvious turning point, though, of the Mosconi Cup, as you well know, Michael, was when Chris Reinhold missed a ball he had no right to. Okay, he was under pressure, but that made all the difference. The whole complexion of the contest switched.
Yeah, absolutely. And there were a few pivotal moments like that when USA desperately needed to win the last match on the Thursday night to give themselves a good chance going into the final day. Jeremy Jones, the captain, who'd had to step in as a player when Earl Strickland was ruled out, made an unbelievable error with a great chance to beat David Alcaide. Basically forgetting the way the shot clock rules applied. Alcaide stepped in to mop up, and really there was no way back for the US after that. The whole thing really hinged on a few pivotal moments like that.
Yes, I felt so bad because I'm really good friends with JJ. Spent a lot of time in the commentary box with him, and that's the last thing you wanted.
What David Alcaide wanted there was to lead 2-1 against Shane van Boening, and he does. More in a moment. Welcome back to Milton Keynes, where we're watching two of the best players in the world, Shane van Boening and David Alcaide, and it's the man from Malaga leading 2-1.
Turned away, seemed pretty happy, and the reason for that is the 3-ball does have a route to a pocket. 1 in 2 in, 3 clearly goes. Position on the 4, obviously that's the next task. And with all of that side, it's achieved.
All 3 racks so far in this match, Phil, have been won by the non-breaking player. Now that, as an isolated incident, isn't really worth remarking on. The reason I say it is because it's part of a wider pattern that I've noticed here. For whatever reason, the break is obviously still very important, but it seems to be a bit less of a factor this week than it usually is.
Just got to chip this 4-ball in. At that pace, it was quite clear it was fully intentional to make contact with the 8. And now the rack really should be his. By the way, it's 3-1 on the other table as well. Naoki Oi winning the 4th rack after Skylar Woodward attempting a thin safety off the 2, missed the 2 completely. Now, I can only assume there, the way he reacted, that he had a skid. What we call in snooker a kick. If you have a kick in snooker, if you have a skid in pool, far more often than not, if you're cutting a ball, you end up undercutting it. The ball straightens.
10 seconds.
And that was all the hallmarks of a skid right there.
Yeah, well, even in the way he reacted, I think Q Sports players have that instinctive response when it happens to them.
Of course, it was unlucky for Alcaide, but the fact remains, Shane Van Boening can't catch a break in this match yet. That bank sorted out better. But don't tell me he's going to be behind the 8.
On the way, his head is slumping there. Suggests he definitely is. Should be able to tell from the overhead. Well, that looks a little more promising.
10 seconds.
He was walking back with his head and his shoulders slumping, but had no reason to, really. So it's going to be another rack one against the break, and just can't help feeling we're seeing a lot fewer break and runs than we usually do, and it's not as much of a factor.
So Van Boening levelling up. I think it's to do with the fact, Michael, that alternate break does tend to naturally interrupt rhythm. That's the only plausible explanation. Must say I love watching Shane Van Boening play. He plays with such great authority and knowledge. And I think he'll go deep here.
Yeah, he just oozes experience. He's accomplished so much. And the age profile of the leading players really seems to have gone down a lot in the last few years. But he's still going strong, one of the very best. He'll be 40 next year.
Yeah, and that's completely opposite to snooker, where the demographic has changed the other way. Used to be that if you were 40 years of age, you were basically put out to pasture. Now you're in your prime.
Yuki Oi battling back well here. Closing to 3-2. He's getting to the stage where he really doesn't have much more margin for error. He's got to win. Well, we were discussing earlier, I would say at least 2, possibly even all 3 of his 3 remaining matches.
So, Shane Van Boening tying it up and then tying it up. First the match, then the shoelace.
No more of those puns, Phil. I'm putting my foot down over that one.
2 racks each.
Well, nobody's a shoe-in in this contest yet. All level pegging, 2 apiece.
He looked in great shape on the 2. Then there was that double kiss that knocked the cue ball back up the table. The 6 responsible for that, but at least he still has the 2 on, albeit from distance.
Extension, please.
Well, this kind of situation where he's weighing up what he needs to do, tailor-made for the extension to be taken. He didn't want the kiss on the 7, but at least, again, no damage done in terms of being able to fully see the next ball. Oh, great pot, but he's saying, how can the cue ball be there? Well, you put it there, Shane.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Passed a couple of tests already here. This is another one. Is it going to spin all the way? Oh, not a shot you see often. Rather than trickling in, it spun all the way to the corner.
Yeah, and that caught an awful lot of the jaw, and had the spin not been on the ball, there's an argument to say that wouldn't have fallen, but the spin actually took it in.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think it may very well not have fallen. Needs another half-decent shot here, though, doesn't he? And that sets up the combination. So it looks as though Shane van Boening is going to be the first player to win a rack on his own break. This isn't entirely guaranteed. He had to work hard for that, but Shane van Boening has got there in the end, and he leads for the first time in the match at 3-2. Now it's the same score to the American on the other table. As we have a look at that combination again. Skylar Woodward at the table looking to make it 4-2 against Naoyuki Oi. Both players on 4 wins, but Oi's only got 2 more matches after this one. They're both tomorrow. Woodward will still have another 5 to play, including one tonight against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz.
It was one of those scruffy racks with the 6 being so close to the 9, but at least that's been removed now. Absolutely horrid shot.
Yeah, we see it time and again with him. He often is up out of the shot so quickly. Particularly those where he's in a little bit of bother and there's the potential for bad things to happen.
Has to be said, though, Skylar Woodward plays really well with extreme side, which he imparted there to get round the left-hand side of the green 6 as we're looking.
The 6th rack.
Woodward should clear up. We'll let you know shortly. Well, the pendulum of fortune has really swung in this match. In the first 3 racks, the beneficiary was Alcaide. In the last 2, indisputably, it's been Van Boening.
Woodward on the 9 ball on the other table, which just about falls into the category of missable, but he hasn't missed it. So Woodward on the hill, leading 4-2.
Alcaide's done well there. Okay, there was plenty of balls to hide behind. But he's made a good job of that. Getting the cue ball so close to the 4 takes away many of the escape options. Plus the 2 being so close to the 7. That brings in the possibility of a foul as well. So reverting to shorty.
Well, unless he's left a gap through to the potting angle, and I'm fairly sure he hasn't, then that's a magnificent shot. Well, I don't know, Phil, what do you think? Can he get through to it?
Well, he's flapping his arms around. And really, after the previous rack, when he had an outrageous fluke to win it, he's not in any position to moan about fortune, is he?
Yeah, I think from having seen it from the overhead now, looks different from there. Well, having to take the aerial route. And it's all worked out pretty well for Van Boening in the end.
Yes, stuck up, good and proper. When Earl Strickland won all of those US Opens, I never thought that anyone would equal that achievement. It really is a gigantic accomplishment. But then, of course, along came Shane Van Boening. Having been to the US Open for the first time last year in Atlantic City, I must say, it was a wonderful week. So much prestige about that event, so much history. And now that Matchroom are organising it, so much class and style and worldwide exposure.
Yeah, absolutely. They took it on from 2019 in Las Vegas. I was over there for that, and I would echo everything you say. Just felt special.
10 seconds.
He was only 24 when he won the US Open for the first time. He was a relative newcomer at the highest level of the game then. And equalled Strickland's record of 5 in 2016. When he beat Chang Yung Lin in the final. Had a wonderful year. He won the US Open at 8-ball, 9-ball and 10-ball that year. A string of other tournaments as well. He's had a few goes at claiming the record. Getting to 6. But it hasn't happened for him yet. Gone out the last 16 in both of the stagings since Matchroom took it over. In fact, he's been the only American to reach that stage in both of those championships.
Love the way he played from 6 to 7 with all of that acute running side. Still a modicum of work to be done, though.
Well, that's been the story for him throughout this match. Very little has come easily to him. But overall, I think he's played pretty well. Although he's not happy with where he's finished on the 9. You'd back him for this all day long. Three on the bounce then for Shane Van Boening, and he's on the hill, leading 4-2, and he'll be breaking next.
3-7 flagship.
It's advantage America on both sides of the arena this evening. Skylar Woodward 4-3 up on Naoki Oi. Over here, Shane Van Boening on the hill as well at 4-2 against David Alcaide. Well, he's throwing his hand at it. He just can't get any joy from the break.
When you're as good at the break as Shane Van Boening is, all you want is level fortune. You don't want good fortune, you just want it to be fair. And while he's doing all the right things, look at the end position of the cue ball here in the 9. I mean, who could possibly have foreseen that?
Push out cold.
So having to push.
David, your option. Play again, please, Shane.
It was one of those for Van Boening. What could he do? Because the 3-4 combo is pretty much a certainty if he'd given Alcaide any view of the 3. So he's put himself in a position where he could possibly do something with a jump shot. Not ideal. But there was hope. He missed the 4 by the paint.
Yeah, he played a good jump shot just a few minutes ago, didn't he, when he was very close to the impeding ball. Did it again there. It was a very good effort. Skylar Woodward at the table with a chance to close out a 5-3 win. Over on 2. And there it is. Key win it would be as well. It would be his second of the day, his third in the last 4 matches. And it would take him on to 5. And still with another 5 matches to come.
Extension, please.
Taking the extension again because he's identified the shot as the key one. Potting the 5 shouldn't be an issue. Gaining position on the 6, that's the main thing. There's room past the 9. It's clearly close whether there's room past the 9 for the 8, but I think there is.
It's the same old story again for Shane Van Boening. Broke well, 3 balls down, but no joy with where they finished. And that led to a sequence which has ultimately resulted in David Alcaide closing to 4-3. He'll be breaking in the 8th rack in just a moment. 4-3 also on the other table. Skylar Woodward now just a couple of balls away. Beat Oliver Szolnocki earlier. He needs the 8 and the 9 to make it 2 wins out of 2 so far from Thursday's play.
Kalau udah.
Had 24-5-3 scorelines, 23-5-4s, 21-5-2s, 13-5-1s, and just 4 5-0 whitewashes.
Yeah, even with alternate break, it's a surprise there haven't been a few more whitewashes. Not a good time to come up dry. Indeed, it's the first dry break of the whole match for either player.
Extension, please.
It's preferable to keep your extension in the bank, but sometimes you've got no option but to take it early. You know, he played a double quite similar to that with cue ball and one ball near each other. Not quite as near as that earlier, and it came off very square. This one did as well, but it just about went in after originally hitting that left-hand jaw.
Yeah, the way they finished, he might have been thinking to himself, I'm not even getting any look off the way the balls land off my opponent's break. But of course the difference is, at least he had a chance to do something about it there. And the decision to use his extension was vindicated.
10 seconds.
So had to pull out a tricky bank shot to start it. He'll be grateful to have had the opportunity, and now he's turned it in to a real chance to finish this off. Take himself on to 8 wins. He'll be third in the table on his own.
I think these last 4 days have been really interesting in terms of the ebb and flow of the psychology. Players have had peaks and troughs, none more so than Shane van Boening. Won 5 out of 5 to start things off. Then he had a mini slump last night. Now he seems to be back in gear.
I mentioned the other American, Skylar Woodward, still has one more match tonight against Francisco Sanchez Ruiz. Well, he's also going to be facing Shane van Boening a little later. Van Boening will go into that with a chance to make it a really good day. 4 wins out of 4 if he can take that one and complete a Spanish double. The first half of it is now achieved. Shane van Boening beats David Alcaide by 5 racks to 3. Next up then, it's Lucius Yap against Kelly Fisher. That'll be along in a few minutes.